Hey, welcome back. I'm Thomas, the Global Time Traveler. Glad you could join me today. We're going to talk about GMT watches, and specifically 3 that I own, and I'm going to compare them against the evil empire. But that's okay. We're going to have a good time. We'll take a look at these watches. We'll talk about what a GMT is, what the different mechanisms are, what the different styles, and we'll also take a look at some of the discussions and arguments that people have about why they want a GMT or why they don't. So let's get started. Again, welcome. All right, so for today I have 3 watches from my collection that we're going to take a look at. And they are right here. So there is a Wise Adamascus ADM 110. Looks an awful lot like a Bruce Wayne. I have a ASEAN Hang GMT from Hong Kong. And we have a Venezianico Neride GMT. This one is they call their Grand Tour. These 3 are wonderful watches, all powered by the same Miata 9075 True GMT or Traveler GMT, and we're going to talk about what that means. But first, I received a new watch this week. There it is on the wrist. This is a J. Sarnowski custom piece from a gentleman in Wales. Now, he builds these in his kitchen. It's essentially a one-man operation. He does have some support. His wife does an awful lot of the customer service and correspondence for him. But like I said, he assembles and customizes these in his kitchen in Wales. I found this on Kickstarter, and I've actually ordered 2 more. They're very affordable, really nice pieces. This has a blue lapis stone dial with embedded metal flakes covered in a clear lacquer. It is a Miata 9039 no date movement, so there's no ghost date position on the crown. It has a customized movement in the back with some customized engraving. He replaced the plates and the bridges and put in a brand new custom rotor on it. Stainless steel on a 7-link bracelet. Very, very nice, very comfortable, easy to fit and adjust. It does have quick release spring bars. It has a micro adjust in the clasp, and it's a terrific watch. I'm really, really happy with it. Check him out. It is J. Sarnowski. I'll put the link in for you. You may have to wait a bit because, as I said, he makes each one of these individually, but they are worth it and they are affordable. They're about $425-ish US, plus shipping, plus tariffs, depending on where you live. But they are just magnificent pieces. So what is a GMT? A GMT is a wristwatch or a timepiece that can display to you 2 or more time zones. Why is that important? Well, let's say you work in Doha, but your home office is in, say, St. Louis, Missouri in the United States. 8 or 9 hours, depending on the time of year. Can't always do math in public. And I don't want to be calling a senior manager back there at 3 in the morning, waking him up and hearing the line from The Apprentice, "You're fired!" Don't need that. So I can keep track of what the time is there versus what the time is here. Alternatively, if you travel quite a bit, you can set your local time on the GMT hand for where you live. And then as you travel through different time zones, you can quick adjust the local time so that you know what time it is at home versus what your time it is where you happen to be. Again, you may not want to make a phone call at the wrong time, wake somebody up. and then be in the doghouse and on the couch when you get back. I don't have to worry about that anymore, but I definitely did for a long time. Again, whole nother story. Alternatively, if you happen to be an aviator, where lots of time references are in Zulu time or Greenwich Mean Time, Universal Standard Time, you can set the GMT time, the GMT hand to that reference, and then keep the normal display to the local time. Again, if you've got to do an awful lot of math, it's 3 hours difference here. Sometimes it makes it a little bit easier without having to think about it. Now, the original GMT, or one of the original ones, was a collaboration between Pan American Airlines, and Rolex. And they built the original GMT. Now, that was what they call a collar or an office GMT, where the fourth hand is the one that you can set independently of the other two. It makes it easy to set two specific times and then leave them be. So like we said, in the case of working in Doha, home office in St. Louis, very easy to set those two different times and never have to adjust it or change it. There are many watches that use the Seiko NH series movement, and that is that collar or that office GMT. A few years ago, Miyota came out with the 9075 with a traveler GMT that we referred to. That tends to be the most common one you'll see now amongst the affordable micro brands and independent brands. Reason being, the hour hand is what is independently set now. So you'll use the second position on the crown to set the local time. GMT will follow it. And then you can go into the first position and set the local hour time. Now, the downside of the Traveler GMT is there is no quick date adjust. So if you let the power reserve run out and days have gone by, you're spinning that hour hand over and over and over in order to get to the right, correct date. Not a real big deal, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. So the big daddy of the GMT watches that are available today has got to be the ROLEX GMT Master II with the Rolex in-house 3285 Traveler GMT movement. As you know, available in many different dial colors, many different bezel colors. They all have nicknames to them, but that is probably the most desired of the GMTs across the marketplace. And they sell tens of thousands of these every single year. Just not to me. And probably not to you either. But there are lots, like we mentioned, lots of micro brands that also have that Traveler GMT function. The three we're going to look at today have that all in common. I find them to be of excellent quality, very good accuracy, very smooth movements of that crown and being able to adjust it. Nice bezel action, bi-directional on those, and good quality bracelets and cases. We're going to take a look at each of those as we go along right now. Let's do the Venezianico Neride GMT Grand Tour. Now this is a 39 millimeter case, just under 12 millimeters thick, standard 20 millimeter lug width, and it is 45.5 from lug to lug. The case is mostly brushed with some very nice polished chamfers and highlights in through there. It is typically a longitudinally brushed surface, and the case flows very nicely into the end links and then into the bracelet itself. Looking at the dial, it is a sunburst black finish with coppery or bronze highlights, a gilting along the indices, the hands, and the bezel itself. The crown, as you saw, was also that copper or bronze color. Looks very nice. It is a two-tone bracelet with the bronzed center links on an H-link brushed inner links, and it is beautiful. I like this watch an awful lot. Like we said, it has a Miyota movement inside, although it does have an engraved closed case back. As with all of the Venezianicos that have the closed case back, all of the engravings have something to do with Venice. Now the fence post hands are all well loomed along with the indices. And if I shine a UV on it, you can see there is quite a bit of loom on that. Now exactly how long it lasts is about average. Like with many of the GMTs, the bezel itself is not, other than the triangle along the rotating bezel that most of the time stays at the 12 o'clock position. Let's move on to the ASEAN Hang GMT. This model has a gray mother of pearl dial. You can see the orange highlight there for the GMT at the 6 o'clock position. It does have applied indices, applied logo. The hands are partially skeletonized with loom. It is on an integrated bracelet, which means that it doesn't articulate as well as the other two. I personally would like it if it laid flat, but it simply just doesn't. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I would find that to be a little bit more advantageous. Looking at that mother of pearl dial, it does change very nicely in the different lighting conditions. And as a dial person, I find that to be a really attractive feature. Now this does have a very unusual octagonal style cutouts along the bezel that goes very nicely with the angular case and the flat H-link bracelet that, as we said, was integrated with the watch. It is on a butterfly clasp, and adjustment on it was very easy and simple. Now it does not have a micro adjust, which is often what you'll find with butterfly clasps. But again, I don't find that to be a deal breaker. Personally, I like my watches to wear a little bit loose so I can slide it around on my wrist if I want to. It does have partially skeletonized hands. It has very adequate loom. Although again, because it is a fixed bezel, we won't see any sort of bezel illumination there. And you can see the 24-hour numbers. They reflect well also. However, those numerals will not last very long in terms of their ability to re-radiate some of that absorbed light, but that's okay. I find this watch to be a little bit more of a dressy GMT, same as I had with the Venezianico. So the loom portion of it isn't that important to me. A field watch or a diver or a pilot watch, yeah, the loom is going to be significant. But for something that's a little more of a dressy piece, doesn't really affect me. So let's take a look at the WISE at Damascus. This is the ADX 110. It is 904L stainless steel, and it does look an awful lot like a Bruce Wayne, which is a strength and potentially a weakness, because some could look at this and go, oh, that's really just a copy of the Rolex. But really, there are some subtle differences, then some that are not so subtle. Position of the date wheel, the dial itself being that 3 dimensions, the inner 24-hour ring as well as the outer 24-hour ring. There are some significant differences. But it is a similar size. It's 40 by just over 12 millimeters thick. It does have 20 millimeter lug widths with quick release, and it's 47 millimeters lug to lug. It is mostly polished because of that 904L steel and the capacity it has for taking on and holding a very bright polish. They've gone ahead and done that. There are some brushed elements as well, but again, primarily it is a polished case and bracelet. That 3-link bracelet is a fingerprint magnet, however. So you'll find yourself constantly having to clean it and wipe it and make sure that it's not all smudged. The sapphire is a domed sapphire with anti-reflective coating. It is a black sunburst dial in 3 dimensions. The indices are all diamond cut and applied, and they do have BGW9 and GLW9 loom in the hands and in the indices. The hands themselves, there's a cathedral hour hand and a fence post minute hand. The second hand is a needle with a small bit of loom right around that inner 24-hour ring that you'll be able to see in the dark moving along. Again, this one is based upon the the Adamascus Diver. So it has 200 meters of water resistance, screwed in crown, screwed in case back. This one happens to be an exhibition that allows you to see the signed logo on that slightly customized rotor. Now, taking a look at this bracelet, what's really cool about this is it can be adjusted without tools. You simply pull on the end link, pull it over, that can be removed, put back in, and to refit it, you just do the exact opposite. Pull it out, put it in, and all is good. But as you see, like we mentioned, lots of fingerprints on that. Now, my feelings on this watch, I think it is a superb everyday watch. I do enjoy flying with this. It's legible. That orange 24-hour hand is very easy to read. And as we said, Wise is always known for good lume. And look at that. The entire outer bezel is loomed along with the triangle at 12 o'clock. The hour, minute, and end of the second hands are all loomed, as well as the tip of that 24-hour GMT indicator. And with all Wise, it holds its lume for a good duration, which is real nice. Things that I don't like about this one, like I said, the fact that it is a fingerprint magnet is a little bit annoying at times, but generally I can live with that. The one part that I do find difficult is the customer service, as I mentioned earlier with Wise. If they were to raise the level of their game to some of their competitors, and I mentioned a few of those, Second Hour, Erebus, Bowcroft, Veneziano, if they could raise that game to that level, I think they would be extremely competitive within the microbrand marketplace. They already are, but that would make it a much better experience for customers. All right, let's sum all of this up. We looked at 3 GMT style watches today, all powered by the Miyota 9075 Traveler GMT. I do not yet have a watch that is powered by the Seiko or the Collar GMT, but I do have one in mind. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But which of these 3 is best, and do you want a GMT? And are these as good as the Rolex GMT Master II? Of course, they're not as good as the Rolex. The Rolex puts an awful lot more time, money, and attention into refining every element of that piece. You can't argue with that. But is it 10, 15, 20 times better than these? That's up to you to decide. For me, probably not. That's an awful lot of money to spend on a single piece, and I don't have the budget for that type of a life choice. But of these 3, which one is the best? Well, if you go by price, it's the ASEAN. At about $650, good value. However, like we said, there were a couple of things that are less than perfect on that. In terms of the fact that bracelet doesn't lie flat, it's not quite as comfortable in terms of wearability as the other 2. But it is an excellent watch. In terms of the other 2, the Veneziano, I think that is a terrific watch. It is the most expensive of the 3. However, if you are a repeat Veneziano customer, you do get a voucher for discounts on subsequent purchases. So that could be something that you take into mind. So if you made it this far, thanks for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I hope you learned something or had a good time, or if at the very least had a laugh at this old bald dumb guy talking into a camera in a room all by himself. I hope to see you again. If you have the opportunity and the desire, please like, subscribe, comment as always. I'm always open to receiving feedback. Again, haters, not so much, but anything that's constructive, or if you disagree with something, or you have something that I got wrong, happy to learn that, and I'll try to respond as quickly as I can. So as always, be happy, be healthy, be well. I want to wish everyone a very happy Christmas or whatever holiday that you celebrate this time of year, and a very, very happy and prosperous new year. All right, take care. Cheers.